All right, last week you got a lecture on how you really aren't doing what you think you're doing when you're multitasking. This week you're going to find out why multitasking is keeping you broke and overweight, and it's actually preventing you from achieving your biggest goals. So keep watching. Oh, I want to make sure before I get started that you stay tuned in next week's video if you've ever wondered if you have adult ADD. Now, it's related to what you're going to learn about today. So you know from last week that you aren't physically capable of focusing on more than one thing at a time. So what's really happening, of course, is that you're simply toggling back and forth between two or more things. You're quickly shifting focus from one thing to another, and it happens so fast that sometimes it seems like you're holding all those tasks in your brain at once. But that's not what's happening. You're not doing that. So why is that a problem? Okay. Well, last week you learned that, of course, it can be potentially dangerous when you're doing something like driving and talking on the phone, or God forbid texting. Don't even get me started with that. That's horrendous. Not only is multitasking possibly putting you at risk, but it's also preventing you from achieving your biggest goals. And for lots of you, those goals might be to build your business, pay down debt, get control of spending, or lose weight, or more of those things, all of those things. Multitasking works against you in two ways. First of all, each time you shift your attention from one thing to another, your brain needs to shift gears. If you want to think of your brain as having billions of tracks, like railroad tracks, and each track is a specific process that you know how to do or something you've learned to do or whatever. So as long as you stay on that particular track, it's easy for your brain to work. Your brain just keeps going along that well-grooved track. It's comfortable. But when you want to shift your attention to another task altogether, it means that your brain has to shift its activity from one track and onto another track. Just like when trains shift tracks, they have to slow down, and it takes a lot of time and, importantly, a lot of energy expenditure to change tracks. It's the same as in your brain. It requires a lot of mental effort, a lot of mental exertion and energy to shift from one track to another. Your brain functions much more efficiently when it can just stay in one track for a sustained amount of time. Now, you're demanding that your brain is shift back and forth between tracks. It means that your brain has to work harder to find that track and then get the momentum started on that track. Each time you shift your focus from one thing to another, you're using energy. And once that energy is used, it's gone. So multitasking drains your mental energy, and you can talk about it as willpower or self-discipline, all the same thing. Multitasking uses up your willpower for the day. So when you want to do something new, for instance, like you want to develop healthier eating habits, or you want to stop overspending, or build your business, or whatever, it takes a lot of mental effort. It takes a lot of discipline and willpower to develop new habits and new behaviors. But when you're using up your willpower on other things, like shifting attention repeatedly between tasks all day, you actually don't have any willpower left for the new stuff that you're trying to form, right? The new habits. And that's why most people fail at their big goals towards the end of the day. You're at your most vulnerable at that time because you've used up a lot of your mental energy, and now you're hungry, or you're stressed, or you're tired because you don't have much willpower left in you to keep up that new habit. The end of the day is when you're much more likely to revert back to your old habits. It's easier for your brain to do your old habits. Those tracks in your brain for the existing habits are very strong and very deep. So your brain likes to return to those old tracks because it requires less energy than building new tracks for new habits. So multitasking drains away valuable mental energy from you all day long. Second, multitasking gets you in the habit of not concentrating and not focusing on any one thing. So when you do try to focus on something, it feels hard. So you give up. You've trained your brain to not be able to focus on something for very long. Now, there's no problem with that if you never want to change anything in your life. No problem at all. But when you do want to change something or achieve something or create something, you have to focus. Nothing happens without focus. Your concentration and focus is energy. It's the engine of productivity and progress. You can't build a business by only engaging with it momentarily or at a surface level. You have to focus on it, engage with it, put directed energy into it. Same thing with developing new habits. You have to put concentrated energy into them. I hope you're beginning to understand how multitasking is really holding you back. Now, the good news is that you can gradually wean yourself away from this habit of multitasking, and I'm going to strongly urge you to do that. Now, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Even if you don't like what I had to say, that's fine, whatever. Share it on Facebook, Twitter, Google+. And I know, and you know, that there's a lot of people who need to hear this message. Even if it doesn't resonate with you, it might resonate with other people. Now, next week, we're going to take this one step farther and talk about how you might think you have adult ADD, but you don't. Stay tuned for that.